Cameron, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
You were just buzzing around.
There's
So
plenty more puns to come, I'm sure.
I have a whole bag full, but I will not use those. Okay, until later.
Feel free to later on, mate. That's fine.
Tell us about Fly to Feed and how you got into this business.
Yeah, I mean, the introduction, my background is firmly in the tourism space, and this is a bit of a pivot, what they call lately, into a new area. But there is a simulation there. I had a couple of restaurants over my career and hotel at one stage in Byron Bay, so I was pretty exposed to the issue that we have with food waste. And a very close friend of mine has been dealing with the black soldier fly for about 3 to 4 years, and was trying to convince me to do something with that. He could see the potential of what they could achieve in food waste and other areas. And he eventually installed a system at my residence, and I saw how fantastic the soldier flies were in reducing the food waste just in our own home. And then we looked at, okay, how do we actually make this into a business? So we looked at what was happening with the soldier fly right across the globe, and it is a global industry, Mike. There's some pretty big players in this space, but a lot of them are really involved from the byproduct from the soldier fly larvae. We don't have $50 million capital to invest to compete in that space, but we felt there was a real potential to set up a business dealing with the food waste on site and taking it out of landfill. So after about 12 months of working through the various business models and looking at supply chains and products and equipment, we launched about 3 weeks ago.
The insects are the most important element. So how do you secure sufficient supply?
Yeah, great question. And really that was one of the things that was the biggest hurdle in getting the business off the ground. But I've just finished a contract working at Southern Cross University and working with some researchers in this space. We got introduced to a gentleman local to the Northern Rivers, who actually has a factory and has been working with the soldier flies and harvesting them for a number of years, and he's operated now for 12 months. So he's proved to himself that he can supply the larvae consistently for year round. So now that we have the access to the supply of the larvae, we're ready to go.
What about, I have to ask you, smell? Any smell involved?
Mike, there can be, and we have gone through various research and doing it on our own in our own properties to ensure that we deal with little issues like that. But to be really honest, it's very rare. The fact that the larvae reduce the organic waste so quickly, the food doesn't get time to spoil, and therefore we don't get the problem with the smell. But if there is, we actually found a bioorganic spray that's commonly used in composting toilets to deal with smell. So we've got access to that.
Is this a bit like a worm farm on steroids?
Spot on. That's exactly
With
how I've
wings,
been.
worms with wings.
That's exactly how I've been promoting it. I think people understand the composting arena
Hmm.
and systems, and you're spot on. The larvae are, they work 10 times faster or 12 times faster than a worm does, and it actually can handle meats and other elements that worms can't handle in a normal composting system. And they also deal with contamination in the system by just working around it.
Mm.
It doesn't impact on the system where a traditional worm compost does have those problems.
What about the service? How does it work, for example, for a restaurant?
Yeah, so for a restaurant, cafe, hotel, what we do is we assess how much waste they're actually dealing with. And then we have a different size infrastructure or bin systems that we'll be providing depending on the amount of waste. We seed the bin system So seeding it with a 7 to 10-day-old larvae, and we'll do that a couple of times. So there's a natural cycle that the larvae will regenerate itself and continue to chow down on the food waste. And then at a time that probably on a monthly scale or 6-weekly period, we'll actually come and service the system, which could entail us completely cleaning out the bin and then reseeding it and starting again, or just topping it up with more larvae. So if the system actually does get to a stage where it's self-populating, so in other words, the flies are hatching, laying eggs on the bin, and then those eggs are then reseeding into the bin itself, which is what's been happening in my own system at home and in my business partners' systems. So that's what we aim for. And it's fully like the circular economy. It's perfect.
Tell us about the potential savings for a large business dealing with a high volume of food waste.
Yeah, Mike, that's the first thing we're going to do having launched is really delve deep in what savings there are for businesses, because each business is different. The cost in collection of the food waste does vary. Some restaurants will put their food waste in general waste, and that goes into a large collection facility. We're doing a trial basis at a very well-known local restaurant in the Northern Rivers to fully establish what savings they can attribute to our system. But, from the likes of council having to pick up the food waste, that's an area we're really gunning to get into in the residential side of things, to see exactly what savings councils can actually get from collection.
What about international wise? Is there an international market?
Yeah, I believe there is. From what we've researched, we're really the only business that's working in this side of the black soldier fly and using it specifically for food waste on site. And we know in the States, there's a couple of states like Vermont have actually banned the collection of or putting food waste into your residential bins. You have to deal with it yourself, be that composting or taken to a transfer station. So we believe, our solution can really solve a lot of those problems that they have in the States and probably in many other areas around the world.
It's amazing. I can just think probably 10 years ago when we'd throw just about anything except for the kitchen sink and your mother-in-law into the actual bin. And nowadays it's so governed, or they try to govern it and make sure that we're all doing the right thing. Looking at the overseas market, how are you approaching this though? I mean, it's a very unique business, and it does have, I would imagine, certain guidelines, and there are strict protocols to follow. But so how are you actually following, and I won't say your dream, but following your business plan to expand overseas?
Yeah, we've really approached this looking at how we scale and scale quickly. We know that the concept works. We know it's a great concept and a great solution to a huge problem. So really, we've looked at how, if we were going to expand internationally, what aspects we're going to need for that. So that's from looking at the supply chain and actually harvesting the larvae and what that structure looks like, how much, square meterage we need for a system, and how big a system we need. So it's early days. Like I said, we've only launched 3 weeks ago, but we're looking at, in order to, capitalize on what we're doing, to be able to scale really quickly and think about every aspect of it.
You offer scalable infrastructure and off-the-grid service. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so everything we do is, from the bins to, we look at how much waste you're dealing with, and we'll put together a system that's going to handle that amount of waste. So it's a matter of, do you need 2 bins, 3 bins, 4 bins? That's how easily it is to scale. And then as far as being off the grid, we are looking at, there's no power requirements for it at this stage, but the larvae itself can become a bit dormant when temperatures go down. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at a solar-based power source to heat up inside the bin itself. And the other piece of technology that we're actually in conversation with UQ about is a monitoring system that we can access certain readings that are happening in the bin, and we can monitor it from remotely to then ascertain when it needs to be serviced. So that's an area that I'm really excited about, to be able to fully automate the monitoring and servicing of the bin. And also we can measure exactly how much waste is going in there and how much emissions we're actually taking out of the atmosphere.
An amazing business, and I'm sure councils globally will be looking at this. It just saves them money and good for the environment too. Fly to feed really is the buzz. I had to use that one, sorry. If they want to find out more about Fly to Feed or Louis the Fly or something like that, I mean, I have to use these corny lines. I've stored these up for years, and you're just flown into my life. So how would they find out more about Fly to Feed?
Well, let me correct. Louis was the bad fly. Louis was the fly that you wanted to spray with fly spray. So we're good flies.
You're good flies.
We're flies that are making a difference. So yeah, look, if you want to get in contact with us, the website's launched. It's www.flytofeed. That's FLYTOFEED.com.
Okay, have to ask you this one. This is very Australian for those overseas wondering what the heck we're talking about. But tell me this, and honestly, Cameron, are there flies on Cameron?
No flies on me.
Except your ones.
Well, ours are friendly, as I said.
I have never known a fly that I liked before, and now I love them. Fantastic. Great chatting with you, and all the best with Fly to Feed.
Thanks very much, Mike. Appreciate it.